kid or Pennywise the Clown, who also goes by the names of the Dancing Clown, Robert Gray, and the Eater of Worlds and Children. It is known as an entity that comes from the macroverse. Its true form is called the Deadlights. Its other forms consist of a large black pregnant spider that lives in the sewer system under the town of Derry. The macroverse is an undiscovered void that contains and surrounds the entire known universe. It mainly takes the form of a clown to lure children, and it likes to eat children the most, because they taste so much better when they are scared and full of fear. Another reason is that they are easier to hunt. It refers to the fear in children as salting the meat or marinating it for consumption. It arrived on Earth as an asteroid in the prehistoric period through a cataclysmic event, crashing into the Earth in the same area that later became the town of Derry. It stayed and hibernated in the same area until humans came and later settled, almost like it knew they would come one day. It created a cycle of hibernation where it would sleep and wake up every 27 to 30 years at a time. Every time it awakened, it left in its path a trail of horrid and violent bloody events that wreak havoc on the town of Derry. Its age is considered to be that of millions of years old, and it was born before time and space was created. Even though many of these horrific events happened, the whole town, mainly the adults, just ignored the events as regular occurrences or acted like they never happened. No matter how horrid or gruesome of an event, the stories never made the national news or out of Derry. Many, if not all, of the child murders and disappearances were never solved and soon forgotten like they never happened. In the novel, the main reasoning behind this was that it never let them get out and it controlled what happened in Derry. It also took all many other forms such as bats, leeches, werewolves and sharks, pretty much anything that would put the fear into a children. It was stopped the first time by the Losers Club because Bill Denbrough performed the ritual of Chud, which Bill learns to perform from its enemy, the turtle. Bill meets the turtle when he comes close to seeing the Deadlights, but avoids seeing them. The Deadlights, when seen by a human, drives them instantly insane. The only person known to ever come out of insanity after seeing the Deadlights was Bill's wife, Audra Phillips. Its enemy, the turtle, who is also an ancient macroverse being, who also is known as the Dweller, created the universe eons ago and also shows up in the Dark Tower series. The turtle is considered a creator of worlds and it is a consumer of worlds. The turtle appears in the Dark Tower series as the MATURIN and is one of the guardians of the beam. The creation versus consumption, that's one way of looking at why they are natural enemies, trapped in an eternal battle of creation versus consumption. It refers to itself as a superior being and humans are mere toys to him through its viewpoint in the novel, and the turtle is considered close to its superiority. Here's a timeline of its destruction and disasters in the town of Derry. 1715, 1716, it awoke. 1740, 1743, it awoke and started a 3-year reign of terror that culminated with the disappearance of over 300 settlers from Derry Township, much like the Roanoke Island mystery. 1769, 1770, it awoke. 1851, it awoke when a man named John Markson poisoned his family, then committed suicide by eating the white nightshade mushroom, causing him an excruciating death. 1876, 1879, it awoke, then went back into hibernation after murdering a group of lumberjacks who were later found near the Kenduskeag. 1904, 1906, it awoke when a lumberjack named Claude Heroux murdered a number of men in a bar with an axe. Heroux was promptly pursued by a mob of townsfolk and hanged. It returned to hibernation when the Kitchener Ironworks exploded, killing 108 people, 88 of whom were children engaged in an Easter egg hunt. 1929, 1930, it awoke when a large group of Derry citizens gunned down a small group of gangsters known as the Bradley Gang. It returned to hibernation when the main Legion of White Decency, a northern counterpart to the Ku Klux Klan, burned down an African-American Army nightclub known as the Black Spot. 1957, 1958, it awoke when Dorsey Corcoran was beaten to death by his stepfather, Richard Macklin. Its first known victim at this time was Georgie during one of the floods that hits Derry every few years. It then met its match when the Losers Club forced it to return to an early hibernation when wounded by the young Bill Denbrough, Georgie's older brother, in the first ritual of Chud. 1984, 1985, it awoke when three young homophobic bullies beat up a young couple, Adrian Mellon and Don Haggerty, throwing Mellon off a bridge, echoing real-life events in Maine. It was finally defeated in the second ritual of Chud by the adult Bill, Richie, Beverly, Eddie, and Ben, though this triggered the collapse of the water tower and flooding of the town. This video will explore some interesting facts about the Maturin, from the Dark Tower series, Song of Susanna, and the novel, It. The Maturin also goes by the names of the Turtle, the Guardian of the Beam. The Turtle is a superior being, who lives in the Macroverse. The Turtle, who is also an ancient Macroverse being, and known as the Dweller, created the universe eons ago and also shows up in the Dark Tower series. The Turtle is considered a creator of worlds, and it is a consumer of worlds. The Turtle appears in the Dark Tower series as the Maturin and is one of the Guardians of the Beam. It is a natural enemy of the other ancient Macroverse superior being, It, who is also known as Pennywise the Clown, who also goes by the names of the Dancing Clown, Robert Gray, and the Eater of Worlds and Children, from the Stephen King novel, It. The creation versus consumption. This is one reason why the Turtle, and Pennywise the Clown, are natural enemies, trapped in an eternal battle of creation versus consumption. Here's a quote from Roland Deschain, and a brief description of the Turtle, from Stephen King's novel, The Dark Tower. See the turtle of enormous girth. On his shell he holds the earth. His thought is slow but always kind. He holds us all within his mind. On his back all vows are made. He sees the truth but mandate. He loves the land and loves the sea, and even loves a child like me. Maturin is one of the guardians of the beams that support the Dark Tower. His physical form in Midworld is presumably a cyborg like Shardik. It is hinted that this beam is personified in the character of Stephen King. In actuality, the turtle's true form is much more grand and powerful. There is evidence of this in several occasions when it has come to aid warriors of the White. The turtle is described to have vomited out our very universe on day when it had a stomach ache. It, or Pennywise the Clown, had thought that what he considers to be a lazy superior being, the turtle, had died out after the creation of our universe. Many aspects of the turtle can be traced back to Indical folklore and myth, and he resembles that of the world turtle of ancient Hindu mythology. The turtle teaches the ritual of Chud to Bill Denbrough and the Losers Club of Chud, in which Beverly Marsh was able to injure it, the first time when they were children. It was destroyed the second time around with the second ritual of Chud when they went back to Derry as adults. The turtle speaks in a loving and gentle voice, and there is a monument of sorts but of the turtle in Daghamarge Old Plaza, which is a structure built to protect the Rose in the Dark Tower series. After Bill Denbrough's initial meeting with Turtle in 1958, Bill later finds out the turtle dies after giving him knowledge on how to defeat it. I hope you enjoyed the brief explanation and history of the Maturin the Turtle. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. The Man in Black, from the Dark Tower series, who also goes by the name of Randall Flagg. He has many names, but in most cases, he uses the initials R, F, and sometimes uses the name Walter O'Dim. Flagg is a sorcerer who is a devoted servant of the Outer Dark. His abilities are supernatural in nature, and he has the power to foretell the future to a certain extent. He can bring back the dead, and also control humans and animals and their movements. He exists mainly to destroy worlds and civilizations through chaos and destruction as he weaves the strings of conflict through humans and their own ambitions and desires. Flagg has made many appearances in more than 9 of Stephen King novels over the years. He made his first appearance in the novel, The Stand, as an evil being or demon who creates chaos after a plague that kills off most of the world's population. Next, he appears in the novel, The Eyes of the Dragon, as an evil sorcerer who creates a web of deceit among a king, his sons, and his family, and he tries to destroy the entire kingdom of Tulane. These books also can be looked at a type of origins of sorts for Flagg. Randall Flagg is best known for his role as the Man in Black in Stephen King's The Dark Tower series. His main goal is to keep Roland Deschain from reaching the tower so that he can get there first and proclaim himself a god. Flagg is described as a tall man with no age, and his actual history is a mystery, even to himself. He says at some point, he just became, but he remembers being a Marine, a Klansman, a Viet Cong, and he was involved in the kidnapping of Patty Hearst. Patty Hearst in real life was a woman who was kidnapped in 1974 by a left-wing terrorist group called the Symbionese Liberation Army. After being threatened and isolated for many months, she became supportive for their agenda and causes. He attracts people who are drawn to power and rule, and that have ambition in their hearts. Next, he appeared in the novel, The Heart of Atlantis. He went by the name Raymond Fiegler, and he was an activist group leader who prevents Carol Gerber from stopping a bomb from going off at a college campus. In this book, he also possesses the ability to make himself appear dim as one of his powers. He makes several more appearances in the Dark Tower series, and he made his presence felt as a true villain and regarded by Stephen King as the best villain that he ever created. In flashbacks, Flagg has many identities such as Martin Broadcloak, which is a sorcerer who colludes with the Crimson King to bring down the Dark Tower. Another person he assumes the name of is Richard Fannin. Later through the Dark Tower series, much more of Flagg's background and origins is revealed to the reader. He was born by the name of Walter Poddick in the city of Tulane to the parents of Sam Miller and Eastar Barony. When Walter was 13, he went out on his own on the road, and he was raped by a fellow wanderer by the name of Bev Vincent. This may explain why Flagg wanted to bring down and destroy the city of Tulane in the novel, The Eyes of the Dragon. After the rape, instead of running back home with his tail between his legs, he becomes more determined and searches out for power by the way of the dark arts, and learns many forms of magic and achieves a form of immortality and becomes the being known as Flagg. After hundreds of years of creating chaos and destructions throughout many timelines, the Crimson King takes notice of him, and takes him as his ambassador of darkness and evil. I hope you enjoyed the brief explanation and history of the Man in Black, and please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.
We're sorry, the number you have dialed is not in service at this time.
This video contains a brief explanation of the origins and history of the fictional character, the Slender Man. The Slender Man is a demonic fictional character with supernatural powers, who was originally created as an internet meme for forum, created by one of its users, Eric Knudsen, who also went by the name of Victor Surge in 2009. He is usually drawn as a tall thin man with pale skin, faceless, and wearing a black suit with tentacles coming out his back, and sometimes he is depicted with children, either holding their hands, or sometimes seen standing afar in the backgrounds of several pictures found online. Many stories surrounding his lore and mythology is of him abducting people, mainly children, similar to that of Pennywise the Dancing Clown, and making them lose their mind with some type of trauma. Slender Man was created on June 10, 2009 on a thread in the Something Awful internet forum. A contest was held to see who could Photoshop the best real-life photos, and to make them appear as if they were actual paranormal pictures taken. Victor Surge contributed 2 black and white images of groups of children, to which he added a tall, thin spectral figure wearing a black suit. Although previous entries had consisted solely of photographs, Surge supplemented his submission with snatches of text, supposedly from witnesses, describing the abductions of the groups of children, and giving the character the name, the Slender Man. The quote under the first photograph read, "We didn't want to go, we didn't want to kill them, but its persistent silence and outstretched arms horrified and comforted us at the same time." 1983, photographer unknown, presumed dead. The quote under the second photograph read, "One of 2 recovered photographs from the Sterling City Library blaze, notable for being taken the day which 14 children vanished and for what is referred to as the Slender Man. Deformities cited as film defects by officials. Fire at library occurred 1 week later. Actual photograph confiscated as evidence." 1986, photographer Mary Thomas, missing since June 13, 1986. These additions effectively transformed the photographs into a work of fiction. Subsequent posters expanded upon the character, adding their own visual or textual contributions. Knudsen has stated that he was inspired by several fictional characters and stories, such as The Mothman, Stephen King's The Mist, The Insidious Beast by Zach Parsons, and Mad Gasser of MATURIN, the tall man from the movie Phantasm, and survival horror games like Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and several other comic book and fictional television shows. On Saturday, May 31, 2014, in the city of Waukesha, in Waukesha County, Wisconsin, 2 12-year-old girls allegedly lured another girl, who was also the age of 12, allegedly lured another girl into the woods and stabbed her 19 times in order to impress Slender Man. After being stabbed multiple times, the 12-year-old teen crawled out to a roadway and lay down, where a cyclist found her and dialed 911. The teen was rushed to the hospital with multiple stab wounds, where she was an inch of her life. The teen was hospitalized for over 6 days, but soon was able to return to school. The cases of the 2 teen girls are still ongoing, and 2 separate trials are scheduled for October of 2017. Over the years, Slender Man has been referenced in several forms of media and entertainment, other fictional material that expands on his allure, and not necessarily sticking to the original mythology that was created, such as video games, literature, artwork, and many other forms of fictional entertainment. I hope you enjoyed the brief explanation and history and origins of the Slender Man. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. This brief documentary will focus on the mythology and urban legend of the Mothman. The origins of this folklore is based in the United States and the region of Point Pleasant, West Virginia. The mystical creature was reportedly seen by people in Point Pleasant between the dates of November 12, 1966 to December 16, 1966. One of the first newspaper stories that was published regarding Mothman sightings was published in Point Pleasant on November 16, 1966, and the headline was titled, "Couples See the Man-Sized Bird Creature Something." It was suggested in the popular 1975 book by John Keel, who wrote The Mothman Prophecies, that some supernatural events and sightings had some type of connection with the collapse of the Silver Bridge in Point Pleasant. On November 12, 1966, in a cemetery near Glendon, West Virginia, 5 men were digging a grave, and they all said that they witnessed a man-like creature flying from the trees above their heads, and this is considered to be one of the first sightings of the Mothman. On November 15, 1966, 2 young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry and Stephen Mary Mallet, told the police that they had saw a big black creature with glowing red eyes when their car headlights flashed it. They described it as a large flying man with 10-foot wings, and it was flying above their car and following them outside of a town called the TNT area. Following those events, and over the next 3 days, the sightings of the Mothman had increased in its appearances, and people all reported similar and eerie stories of him. There were reports from 2 volunteer firemen who said that it looked like a large bird with red eyes. One of the Mason County sheriffs, by the name of George Johnson, said that all the sightings were something called the shitepoke, which was a term he coined for all of the mass sightings of a so-called monster. On December 15, 1976, the Silver Bridge collapsed and killed over 46 people, and the tragedy was thought to be connected to all of the sightings of the Mothman, and some believe that the collapse was something supernatural in nature. Over the years, people have tried to connect the Mothman to UFOs and other paranormal events and activities that go on throughout the world. John Keel, who wrote The Mothman Prophecies, claimed that the people of Point Pleasant had precognitions, including premonitions, of which later led to the collapse of the Silver Bridge of Point Pleasant that killed 46 people. Other urban legends were inserted into the Mothman folklore, such as UFOs, Men in Black, and other crazy stories surrounding the phenomena of the Mothman legend. In 2002, there was a movie adapted from the John Keel book, The Mothman Prophecies. An annual week-long festival is held every year in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and is devoted to the folklore of the Mothman, and there is also a 12-foot metallic statue made of the Mothman that was sculpted by the artist and sculptor, Bob Roach. I hope you enjoyed the brief explanation and history of the Mothman. Please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel.